Have you ever wondered how young campus kids, barely with a full beard, are able to afford a lavish lifestyle and seem to have all the time in the world? Yet, while you struggle with your bills despite your stacked CV with all your academic achievements, these kids roam freely. They seem to have it all: money, time, and youth. And when you ask them, what do you do for a living? They say it's online writing. This is the story of Frank Obegi and his friends. Frank was a known blogger and an online writer. But as time would reveal, he and his friends were deep in an intricate fraud involving credit cards, cryptocurrency, and account hacking. The end of the story would be when their bodies were found in Jeph forest on June 2022, murdered, mutilated, and their private parts cut off. In ancient civilizations, the removal of the human penis was sometimes used to demonstrate superiority or dominance over an enemy. Sometimes, punishers took the penis as a trophy, one last disrespect to the enemy and one last triumph to the punisher. Perhaps that was the intent with which the men who murdered Frank had when they caught him and his fellow scammers. This is the Financial Crimes Podcast with Jeph Kafka. If you're here, you are awesome. Welcome to the dark underbelly of the financial world, where greed, deception, and corruption run rampant. Join us as we delve into the mind-boggling world of financial crimes, where ordinary people become masterminds of illegal schemes and fraudsters hide behind the guise of legitimacy. From insider trading and embezzlement to Ponzi schemes and cyber fraud, we will explore the most captivating stories of financial wrongdoing and the clever tactics used by those who commit these crimes. So sit back, grab a notebook, and be prepared to be shocked as we take you on a journey into the world of financial crimes. For more of such, please subscribe and turn on the notifications. Who was Frank Obegi? In 2016, Frank Obegi, at only 20 years of age, was already a trendsetter on Twitter. Well, not that he did anything extraordinary, but the fact that he consistently and unapologetically tweeted tweets that he had copied from other users showed that he would do anything to be relevant. And that he achieved, because now we are telling his story, more so to inform you on the vices of cybercrime than to celebrate him. Born in Tisako village in Nyamira, Frank was raised well. He was well educated. He studied up to the university. It is then that he settled in Nairobi, where he started his hustles and probably met the wrong crowd. Frank, together with his friends, as is with many Kenyan youth, tried his hand on online writing. This was a particularly healthy cash cow for the talented writers and researchers. Online writing had two branches. One was article writing, where theme bloggers sought online writers to contribute to their pieces on the selected topics. These were few and lowly paid, maybe 500 pages per page, if you were lucky. The second kind of online writing was academic writing. All over the world, there are hundreds of students who need to have their assignments written, term papers done, and academic researches conducted. This outsourced this duty to Kenyans. Academic writing was more lucrative as most of these students who sought these services were working and they had cash. Others were just lazy, but they also had cash and needed to pay their way through school. As much as it might seem illegitimate, it was a market-driven economy as the demand was massive. The pioneers of such online writing businesses made a tidy sum of money, but those who came late were not as lucky. This was the sad truth that confronted Frank. There was no life-changing money in online writing. but at least it was an accepted way of making a living. In 2019, Bitcoin arose from a slump to earn a return to its investors of 94%. This resurgence not only made news, but it also opened an unknown space in the investment sector known as cryptocurrency. In 2019, Bitcoin had hit the roof. But in 2020, the wave would shoot through the roof to even reach to the skies. Bitcoin would close the year with a 300% return. These were unprecedented heights. People were introduced to other coins other than Bitcoin. There was Ethereum or ETH, Shiba Inu, Dogecoins, FTX, and hundreds of others. We were told that this was the future. We were told that we would be overnight millionaires. Nobody wanted to miss out. The surge was fueled by the constant news, and everyone was trying to get a piece of the super hyper duper abnormal profits. Everyone, including the online writers. Frank Obegi being one. With every gold rush, there are always three categories of people. The real gold diggers who get the real gold. The frauds who sell something that looks like gold, but it is worthless. A gold look-alike. And then the third category is the fools who get the fool's gold. Frank Obegi could not afford the real gold. Instead, he chose to be the seller of the fool's gold. Now, the years that Frank had spent online had made him aware of several things that would come in handy. 1. Frank knew about cryptocurrency, how to create a digital wallet, how to transact anonymously, and all such stuff that pertains to crypto. Second, he knew how to hide his internet location and activity by either using a proxy server or using a virtual private network. Third, Frank knew about the dark web, and his sub-area of interest was the market for stolen debit and credit cards. Fourth, Frank knew a thing or two about marketing his services using Facebook and Google Ads. Fifth, he knew about online payment processing and had access and accounts with several processors like PayPal. Last and most important, Frank had a network of other scammers, other, in quotes, online writers, both in Kenya and around the world. With those skills, anyone can become a cybercon. At this time, sophisticated online scammers were already thriving. The most renowned and probably Frank's role model was one Abbas Hushpuppi, a Nigerian con who was in cahoot with his Kenyan partner in crime, one Juma. The two had recently succeeded in defrauding a Qatari businessman over 100 million shillings, and this quick money afforded them a lifestyle that is otherwise a fantasy to most people. Cars, mansions, clothes, girls, they had it all. And Frank Obegi was itching to get to that level too. Frank's dad believed that he sold airline tickets, but that was just a cover story to water down his father's concern. His dad was concerned because his son was suddenly moneyed, often partying in cost, chartering flights, expensive tasting drinks, and generally living large. From a taped confession by one of his friends, Frank's main specialty was debit and credit cards fraud. All he needed was the card number and the 3-digit CSV. He would then connect the card details to one of his many PayPal accounts, and then make a transaction as if buying something from another of his PayPal account. This way he didn't need the card's PIN, and then he would withdraw the money to use and misuse as he wished. Obegi's second mastery was in spear phishing of emails, or hacking emails to gain access to important threads. This he mostly did with companies from the US and in collaboration with his network of crooks. He could either mastermind an attack or assist another mastermind launder the money. To mastermind an attack, he studied two companies that often had a consistent supply and billing relationship. He would then create a website to replicate the billing company, complete with an identical email for the accountant or other finance officers. For instance, a logistics company that offered transport services to a departmental store. It meant that the transporting company would raise invoices on regular dates. So the scammer would use sophisticated malicious software to infiltrate the company's network and gain access to legitimate email threads about billing and invoices. Frank then used this information to time requests or send messages to accountants, and they wouldn't question the request. Once this was successful, he would need an account in the US where these funds would be paid into. This is where he would use the online writing card to convince friends with relatives in the USA that he needed an account to receive payment from one of his writing gigs. The friend would innocently source the USA bank account and even get a small cut for his troubles. Unknown to the victims, the account would be used by not only Obegi, but also by his network of crooks. The search of foreign bank accounts is always on the rise. It is like the crooks are fishing more money than they have accounts to launder. The third way that Frank Obegi used, and the one that perhaps proved fatal, was when, together with his friend, created an online crypto exchange platform. In an age where such platform can be outsourced from Fiverr, it was easy for Frank and his crew to own such a platform. As it is with every con game psychology, the platform promised investors hefty returns in a matter of no time. First, Frank recruited a team of mentors. But I say mentors in quotes. These were people in on the con game. They would publicize the platform, organize coaching seminars, and flood the comment section of popular posts with their made-up testimonials. The public was urged to invest in crypto through the platform for a 10% daily return after registering with total shilling. The platform had a website and a phone app. The early investors were able to deposit and also withdraw the investments and returns. However, as expected, at one point, the platform would be inaccessible for withdrawal. Investors had been duped again by Frank and his company. The world of cryptocurrency may be virtual, but the consequences of falling victim to these con artists are all too real. But there must have been an investor who was not willing to let this go. See, earlier, Frank had been arrested after he had scammed a gullible investor, not long before he pulled his last scam. However, he had been able to oil his way around the corridors of the law enforcers. But this brush with the law meant that he had become a marked man. He couldn't eat all his ill-gotten wealth silently. He fed the lusts of his bloated ego through posting his extravagant lifestyle on Instagram, expensive trips and expensive tastes, still with the claim that he was an online writer. But as fate would have it, one of the people or a group of the people that he had scammed were able to track him and his crew. This time he was unable to pay back their money, and as police reports indicated, he was strangled to death, dumped in the forest, and his manhood chopped off. Perhaps a rare case of living by the pen and dying by the... No, that might not apply here. Until the next episode, keep watching.